attending in person in the room and do have the opportunity to use the Zoom application. To everyone here, please consult the cards on the table. These measures are in place to help prevent audio and feedback incidents and protect the health and safety of all participants, especially our interpreters. Reminder that all comments should be addressed to the chair. As always, raise your hand whether you're here or on Zoom. And I would like to welcome today's first panel, the Honourable Gary Anandasangri, the Minister of Public Safety. From the Canadian Security and Intelligence Service, Daniel Rogers, who's the Director. From the Department of Public Safety and Emergency Preparedness, welcome back, Tricia Geddes, the Deputy Minister, and Sébastien Aubertin-Giguère, the Associate Assistant Deputy Minister and National Counter-Foreign Interference Coordinator, and from the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, Jody Boudreau, the Deputy Commissioner for Federal Policing. Turn over to the Minister for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to the committee for this invitation. And let me just acknowledge that we're gathered here on the traditional unceded territory of the Anishinaabe Algonquin people. It is becoming abundantly clear that the world is becoming more dangerous and divided. The order that underpinned global prosperity for decades is undergoing a profound transformation driven by geopolitical realignment and technological change. En raison des changements, les menaces visant...
These changes mean the threat landscape Canada faces is rapidly evolving.
Actively seeking to exploit vulnerabilities in this shifting landscape. Their goal? To undermine our society and advance their own interests. Canadians expect their government to protect their democracy and uphold Western democratic principles. That includes ensuring fair, transparent elections. Our approach is working. The integrity of the most recent federal election was not compromised by foreign interference. Elle fonctionne grâce...
That was thanks to our comprehensive election security framework, including continuous intelligence monitoring and assessment of foreign interference threats throughout the election period.
Taken steps to ensure existing measures against foreign interference are effective and to take other measures where necessary. At the same time, it is critical that we maintain transparency and accountability. Throughout the last election period, Public Safety Canada and Elections Canada, along with national security agencies including CSIS, CSC, the RCMP, worked in constant coordination. That collaboration was critical in the successful defense of our democratic process in the last general election. Our agencies worked to detect covert foreign interference activities as well as monitor foreign state actors who would seek to undermine public confidence in Canadian democracy. Additionally, for the first time during a federal election, the Security and Intelligence Threats to Elections Task Force provided weekly technical briefings to the media that helped sensitize and educate Canadians about the threats that could impact the election. In short, our election infrastructure and systems were constantly protected. Je le répète, nos mesures de protection ont fonctionné.
And I'll reiterate, our safeguards functioned as designed, and the integrity of the federal election was not compromised.
Foreign interference threat, a non-partisan process called the Critical Election Incident Public Protocol, established in 2019, is in place to inform Canadians. Even in non-election periods, our government and our national security partners remain steady. Our environment is constantly evolving. Threats have become more sophisticated, more covert, and more persistent. We continue to examine our approach and to seek improvements, striving for more efficient detection and greater transparency. We have made significant progress. That includes advancing work to bring Foreign Influence Transparency and Accountability Act into force. This act strengthens transparency regarding foreign influence activities, notably by naming Anton Bogman as the Foreign Influence Transparency Commissioner, who will oversee the upcoming Foreign Influence Transparency Register. As you may be aware, Mr. Chair, I tabled on Monday the name of Mr. Bogman as the proposed Commissioner for this registry. The Act also established an administrative monetary penalty regime to support enforcement and discourage violations. On January 2nd, proposed regulations to implement the Act were published online for public consultations. Those consultations closed earlier this week. The proposed regulations identify the information to be collected and published about foreign influence activities, set out administrative monetary penalties of up to $1 million, and establish how we will work with partners at all levels of government to uphold the Act. I want to reassure all Canadians and my honourable colleagues that the establishment of the registry remains a top priority. These are delicate and complex mechanisms that require deliberate and careful implementation. Equivalent systems in the Five Eyes took over 2 years to fully implement. We are very much on track. These key initiatives make foreign influence transparent and safeguard the integrity of Canadian democracy. The threat of foreign interference is complex. Standing up these measures is being done with both urgency and care. It is only through robust, careful planning that we will continue to be able to detect and manage these threats. We're committed to continuing our work of strengthening democratic resilience during elections and at all times. This means remaining alert, adapting to new, rapidly evolving threats, and protecting Canadians. Canada's democracy is strong, and we will continue taking action to protect it. Thank you, and I look forward to your questions and comments.
Thank you, Minister. I will now turn to Mr. Cooper for 6 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Minister. Minister, what country is the most active perpetrator of foreign interference targeting our elections and democratic institutions?
Mr. Cooper, I think that's a question best posed to our director from CSIS.
Mr. Chair, through you, we've called out publicly in the past China, Russia, India, and others.
Thank you for that. And I would note that NSICOP in June 2024 identified the People's Republic of China as the biggest perpetrator of foreign interference, as did Madam Justice Hogue, as did CSIS as recently as July of 2025. So in the face of that, and given that we know, and this is to the Minister, that the Beijing-based communist regime has engaged in transnational repression, targeting members of Chinese diaspora communities in Canada. It is a regime that has surveilled, harassed, and intimidated members of these communities, and in doing so, it has shown no respect for Canada's sovereignty and has actively threatened the safety and security of Canadians. So, given all of that, how could the Prime Minister possibly have thought it was in Canada's interests to strike a deal to pursue cooperation with the Beijing dictatorship on matters of law enforcement? Minister?
The Prime Minister has outlined on a number of occasions, and most recently and more comprehensively in Davos. We are living in times that are unprecedented, one where Canada needs to broaden its relationships. We are the closest partner to the United States. However, we know that the situation and the trading relationship
Minister, is the PRC a rule of law state? Is it a rule
Mr.
of law
Cooper,
state?
If I may just, if you will give me the time, I will respond to your question.
No, my time is very limited, so I'm asking you, is the PRC a rule of law state? Yes or no?
So, Mr. Cooper, I think to your previous question, the Prime Minister has clearly outlined the need for us to expand trade, including,
I'm asking you about
with countries
pursuing
in which
cooperation on law enforcement. So, is it a rule of law state? Yes or no?
Well, Mr. Cooper,
does it have an independent judiciary? Yes or no? These are straightforward questions. Yes or no?
Mr.
Minister?
Cooper, I'm not here as a foreign policy expert, nor
Minister,
an expert on China.
It is
I'm
obvious
here
that Beijing is not a rule of law state. They don't have an independent judiciary. Do they have civilian oversight of the police in Beijing?
Mr. Cooper, to your...
Do they respect human rights? Does the Beijing-based communist regime respect human rights? Yes or no?
Mr. Cooper, if you wish for me to answer the question,
Then
I
answer
will
it.
give you a proper answer. As the Prime Minister has clearly outlined both at Davos and in many other speeches, there is a need for Canada to expand its trading partners. China is one of them. China
I didn't ask you a question
is
about
and will be
trading
the
partners. I
largest
asked you about
economy.
cooperation on
If I can-
matters of law enforcement.
Mr. Cooper, if I can intervene here just for a second, and we'll pause your time. This is a very serious issue, and the members have the right to be passionate about this. Just keeping in mind our interpreters, just be careful. It is your time. You are correct. Just if we could be careful of talking over one another.
So does Beijing respect human rights? Yes or no?
Mr. Cooper, what I will say is that Canada is at a crossroads right now. There's a need and an imperative for Canada to expand its trading relationships, and Canada can do both. Canada could protect and speak out on human rights at the same time.
Minister, I asked
expand
you
its
4
trade.
questions, straightforward questions, of which the answer is no. Beijing communist regime is not a rule of law state.
Point of order. I mean, the committee agreed. Oh, sorry.
Thank you, Chair. I want to listen to the conversation, but we can't have a conversation if we're speaking over each other. We can't even hear the answer. So
There's no answer.
either we have a conversation or we don't.
Thank you so much. Just reinforcing what I say, we did pause your time, Mr. Cooper, but please keep. You have 2 minutes left. Same or
Different point of order.
different point of order. Yes, go ahead.
The committee actually agreed that we would have 2 meetings on the implementation of the Foreign Influence Transparency Registry, and for that purpose, invite the Minister of Public Safety. I have a hard time understanding how Mr. Cooper's questions have anything to do with what this committee agreed to actually do.
With the greatest of respect to Mr. Wilkinson, who I have respect for, it seems that he must have missed the testimony of Mr. Tay, among others, who have been targeted by the Beijing-based communist regime. And here we have a government, your government, that is entering into cooperation on matters of law enforcement with a regime that is engaged in transnational repression, including in our elections.
I appreciate the intervention. Generally, when the minister is here, there is a latitude, but we have Mr. Cooper is correct in terms of I do believe this is relevant, but there is generally more latitude given. So we will, and it is delving into debate, but we will turn back to Mr. Cooper.
Chair, the PRC is not a rule of law state. They don't have an independent judiciary. They don't have civilian oversight of law enforcement. They don't respect human rights. They're actively perpetrating genocide, among other crimes against humanity. And the fact that the minister couldn't answer no to all of those questions illustrates the degree to which this government, under this prime minister, is prepared to downplay and whitewash the serious interference in human rights abuses, among other outrageous conduct by a brutal dictatorship, all in the name of his new strategic partnership with that brutal dictatorship. So, Minister, given that your government is engaging in greater cooperation or is moving in that direction with the Beijing regime on matters of law enforcement, what assurance can you provide that cooperation with Beijing will not lead to facilitating intimidation, coercion, surveillance of Canadians, particularly members of diaspora communities who are being targeted by Beijing under the guise of law enforcement?
So, Mr. Cooper, the MOU that you reference with respect to the RCMP has critical significance for Canada. As you're aware, issues around fentanyl, for example, is something that is of great interest to Canada to ensure that we curtail fentanyl and precursors in particular coming through our ports from places like China are critically important. And the MOU addresses greater cooperation with respect to law enforcement on issues of critical interest to us. The notion of our national security is again embedded.
Is that there are no safeguards.
Mr. Cooper, if you're giving me a preamble and allowing me, if it's a point of order, if I may, if you're giving me a longer preamble and not allowing me to answer the question, Mr. Cooper, that's really not constructive in a conversation as sensitive as this. Okay,
Minister.
So if you're taking time to give me a set of facts, allow me to please give you context in which I'm addressing this matter.
Minister, I appreciate you were a committee member for many years, but as a witness, you cannot raise a point of order. But that being said, we're well over 6 minutes. So we will turn to Mr. Wilkinson, please.
Thank you very much, and thank you to all the witnesses for appearing. Maybe just starting with, in the design of the Act, I'm assuming that we looked at other international comparators. So, are there similar kinds of registries that exist in other democratic countries? What best practices did we take in the design of our Act?
Thank you. And look, when the Act was developed, we looked at a number of different options, particularly from Five Eyes G7 partners, who some of them have had a similar act for many decades. In fact, Canada is somewhat at the later stage of development of these acts. So we learned a fair bit from that. And as we developed at the implementation stage, so there's 3 elements to it. The first being the appointment of the commissioner, which we're at the end of that process. We had last week started consulting with the opposition and parties both in the House and the Senate. I formally tabled the name of the proposed commissioner on Monday. We look forward to a vote on this matter in both houses. This is coupled by consultation of our draft regulations, and we've received a fair number of feedback on a range of issues, particularly on the monetary penalties. So we're looking into to finalizing that over the next several weeks. And the third element is establishing and making sure that we have a functional data collection ability. Again, that work is happening. On the administrative side, finding the office, making sure it has our requirements, the renovation that's required, all of that is happening in parallel. So we're hoping within the next, early spring, we will be able to have both the office as well as the registry fully operational.
Great, thank you. Obviously, the role of the commissioner is going to be an important role, given how important foreign interference is. Maybe you can just speak to Mr. Boegman's background and why he was the right choice.
Thank you, and Mr. Wilkinson, you being from British Columbia as well as Mr. Van Popta, I think you would appreciate the caliber of Mr. Boegman. He has served as Chief Elections Commissioner in British Columbia. I believe he is, on top of that, he has been involved with a number of issues around foreign interference in British Columbia, which has in the past, there's been some challenges. He has run 3 general elections, conducted 3 general elections and 12 by-elections. Previously, he served in other roles within Elections British Columbia. He is fully bilingual, someone who, by all accounts, is unimpeachable and who is of high integrity. So we wanted to make sure that the individual who's named as commissioner will have the confidence of Canadians, will have the administrative ability to establish a new registry and functionalities of this commission, and be able to be another additional and important safeguard to our democracy.
Thank you. As I understand it, you can correct me if I'm wrong, the Commissioner's office is to be housed within public safety, but is to operate independently from the department and the minister. Can you just tell me a little bit about how that will work and also why that model was chosen?
Look, we have a number of different agencies, like we have the portfolio agencies, CSIS, CBSA, RCMP, and so on, that are independent agencies. Then we have what I would consider to be smaller, focused agencies, so Parole Board of Canada, the Office of the Correctional Investigator, and we're adding the Commissioner onto that slate of commissions. They act fully independently of public safety, although the reporting will happen through public safety and me as minister. They're independent in all ways, in every manner. The funding of it, again, they seek funding authorities independently. We support them on an administrative basis. We would support them. But we have a number of models where it has worked exceptionally well. And my role as minister and Deputy Minister Geddes would be to support them without directing them in any way.
Do I still have time? Okay. So the Commissioner and the Act are one piece of efforts to counter foreign influence. But maybe you can just talk to me about how it fits in the broader context, because obviously there are a number of other pieces there.
Pieces as part of the election cycle, as you're aware. So during elections, we have our portfolio leaders as well as PCO that meet regularly and that report on a weekly basis to Canadians, and we've seen that over the last election cycle. We also have ongoing work of particularly CSIS, and Director Rogers will be more than glad to outline the ongoing work that they do along with the RCMP.
Thank you so much. We'll now turn to Madame Normandin. 6 minutes, s'il vous plaît.
Merci beaucoup. Merci.
6 minutes. Thank you. Thank you to the witnesses. Thank you to those who are here twice this week, even more. I'd like to hear your perspective on artificial intelligence and digital sovereignty. Earlier this week, we talked about the fact that there was an analysis done of metadata on foreign interference. So I imagine there's a huge amount of data to look at to identify whether there are threats from outside. I'd like to hear your perspective on where those data are stored. Are the data on servers that are in Canada only? And another aspect, with so much data, I imagine we have to use artificial intelligence to analyze the data. If that's the case, what AI system are we using? Are they systems that already exist, or is there an in-house system that's private?
Merci, Madame Normandin, pour la question.
Thank you, Ms. Normandin, for the question.
Rogers to answer that. I know he has a fair bit of experience and is in the process of implementing a number of processes right now. So, Dan.
Oui, merci pour la question.
Microphone, please.
Oh, le micro. OK, désolé. Merci pour la question.
Thank you for the question. For most of the data that are in our control,
that are in Canada within our facilities, very guarded and very secure, with access controls to make sure that it's limited to those who need to conduct investigations in order to access that data, which accounts for both privacy and security concerns. With respect to artificial intelligence, you're absolutely right. It's something that CSIS has to adopt. It's something we are currently adopting, and we have to do that in order to keep pace with our competitors and the overall environment to keep Canadians safe. We are doing that in accordance with some of the direction already set out for the federal public service, which includes making sure, like there are a number of provisions in some of those policies issued by Treasury Board, which we've also adopted, including making sure humans are in the loop, making sure we have a gradual, responsible process for the rollout of AI, and making sure that we're looking at the processes within our AI systems to make sure that they're, responsibly tested and validated before they're put into production use. We're still at a stage where all of the decision making within CSIS is overseen by humans. We're not in a zone where we're at risk of that for now, but we're continuing to implement.
Parfait. J'aimerais continuer un petit peu là-dessus.
I'd like to continue on that note. I'm thinking of different tools we use as parliamentarians on a daily basis. We use Outlook, and we know it belongs to the United States, and the databases are perhaps outside of Canada. The United States may have rights of access via the Patriot Act, the Cloud Act. So what is your perspective on that aspect? Is there a cloud that is sovereign to Canada? Because Minister Solomon was questioned on this, and there isn't. If we use cloud services here, we know that we're potentially vulnerable via the United States or perhaps elsewhere too. Thank you once again. I can answer the question once again. But I'd like to say that officials from Treasury Board and Shared Services Canada would be a bit more able to answer this question regarding government plans.
Data sovereignty continues to be a concern when it comes to vulnerabilities that foreign states could take advantage of. It is certainly more secure and better to have data controlled within a Canadian legal context. That said, when data is held outside of a Canadian context, there are still measures that can be put in place to keep that data secure, including things like encryption, where encryption keys are held in Canada, access controls, auditing, and logging to make sure that that data, when accessed, we are aware of that access. So there are technical measures that can be put in place. For government data, as I mentioned earlier, Treasury Board and Shared Services Canada are better able to answer that. And specifically for CSIS in a classified environment with us, with Department of Defense and CSE and other high security environments like RCMP, we have special systems with special provisions to make sure that our most sensitive data is kept secure and in Canada.
Peut-être une question pour vous, Monsieur le Ministre.
Thank you. A question for the Minister. One of the problems we've seen is trade interference. We've seen China try to acquire Canadian companies of great importance. There's the issue of critical minerals in the north. I'd like to hear your perspective on the criteria that would allow us to limit purchases by China of Canadian companies. When it's China buying a company, it's not private companies buying, it's the government. So criteria like the size of the acquisition, the percentage of Chinese ownership, the industry, would that be at the basis of decisions? And why does it take so long for a decision to be made? Because often that's a problem. It takes a long time to block something in the name of national security.
Thank you. Very important question. The Investment Canada Act has a prescription in terms of foreign investment in Canada, so it is a robust process. So the first piece of it is undertaken by Industry Canada, Minister of Industry, and then it comes to public safety for review and comment. And if there are concerns, oftentimes we will seek additional time for us to undertake a thorough review. It doesn't always mean it's a rejection of the actual proposal. Oftentimes there's mitigation measures that are in place. It has been working, fairly effectively, and I recognize the frustrations in terms of time, but when we do make a negative decision, we have to be absolutely certain, and we take the time to do our due diligence in a very concrete way. I know Director Rogers as well as the RCMP are very much, along with public safety, are intricately involved in this process.
I'll cut you off there. We're well over. We'll turn back to Mr. Cooper for 5 minutes, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Minister, you've moments ago set down another stake in the ground, so to speak, in what is a moving goalpost with respect to getting the Foreign Influence Registry up and running. You say that it will be up and running in early spring, but I'll remind you of the timeline. Nearly 2 years ago, when the legislation to establish such a registry was before Parliament, your predecessor, Dominic LeBlanc, promised that the registry would be up and running before the federal election. That didn't happen. Then your government promised that it would be up and running by June of 2025. That didn't happen either. Then you, Minister, promised that it would be up and running by December of 2025. That didn't happen. It's now February of 2026, and you've set down another timeline, another date. So given a record of making commitments that it would be up and running 3 times, 3 different dates, each time you missed the deadline, why should we have confidence that that's going to happen now?
Look, I share the frustration that you have in the delays involved in getting to this point. But what I can assure this committee is that all the requisite work have been done, essentially complete. So with respect to the three elements I talked about, so the first one being the appointment of the commissioner, we have canvassed with your party, with the Bloc, along with recognized groups in the Senate. We have tabled a formal request, and we will have a vote on that in the near future.
Minister, I'm going to ask you to be a little clearer. When you say early spring, what is that? What does that mean? What is early spring?
So if I may just, I advise you on the first piece. The second piece is the regulations.
I'm asking you for what is the latest timeline? You've given months. So what is the month? Is it April? Is it May?
I'm not going to give you an exact month, Mr. Cooper, but I will say we are targeting, the work has been done, right? So the first piece is the commissioner. The second element is the regulations, which are ready to be
your government
finalized.
Has dragged its feet, and I'll remind you that for years your government opposed and obstructed the creation of a foreign influence registry. Just before the 2021 election, then Conservative MP Kenny Chu introduced a private member's bill to establish a foreign influence registry. As a result of his advocacy for a registry, MP Chu was drowned by a sea of Beijing-directed disinformation, costing him his seat, disinformation that was amplified by the Liberal Party in Steveston, Richmond East, only after Madam Justice Hogue's damning report did your government finally put forward legislation to establish such a registry, which the national security establishment has been calling for years. So after opposing and obstructing a registry, isn't it the case that the new strategy is one of endless delay by your government? Because if it was such a priority, it would surely be up and running now.
I would categorically reject your assertion on this, Mr. Cooper. What I will say is the commission itself, the initial Hogue inquiry was called by this government. When Prime Minister Carney formed government, it was a top priority for him. We've been identifying the appropriate commissioner. That name is now before the House. We have completed the work, essentially completed the work on the regulations. There are some recommendations, including from members of your party, that I'm taking into account and I will revise before the final regulations are tabled. And then the system itself will be up and running. So my commitment to this committee and to all Canadians is that the registry will be up and running in the spring.
Minister, the registry's not in place. The office isn't open, and it's been more than 2 years. And your government talks a lot about obstruction, which is ironic because Conservatives worked with your government to get Bill C-70 passed expeditiously in the last Parliament. And what we have seen up until now is excuses, dragging your feet to get this important tool up and running in the face of very serious threats of foreign interference, including from hostile foreign states, foreign interference that you have now downplayed in this committee when you refuse to, first of all, identify the obvious, that being that the People's Republic of China is the biggest foreign interference actor and threat to our democracy, and your categorical refusal to state the obvious that the Beijing-based communist regime is a perpetrator of human rights, doesn't respect the rule of law, doesn't have independent oversight over law enforcement, and now your government sees fit to do a deal on law enforcement with the Beijing-based communist regime. I don't know how Canadians could possibly have confidence in your government.
We're well over. So we'll turn to Madame Kaibaga.
Thank you, Chair. Through you, I'd like to welcome the Minister. I think I have a different memory from what my colleagues just talked about. As far as I'm concerned, the Conservatives have long talked about being tough on crime, but have obstructed every single bill that the minister has actually put forward in this Parliament. So maybe we have a different experience of that. Minister, you just talked about presenting the commissioner before the House. And I'm not sure if this question has been asked before, but how quickly do you think the Foreign Interference Transparency Registry will be set up? And can you just explain a little bit of how that use is going to look like for the public?
Sure. Look, there's three elements, major elements to it, and I outlined them. In terms of status, I think I've given you status as to where they're at. So with respect to the naming of the commissioner, it is now up to Parliament and the Senate to set a time and a date for a vote. Once that's complete, or concurrently, we're finalizing the regulations. I received feedback. We received feedback from the public, but I've also received feedback from individuals, including colleagues from the opposition, and I value those comments and feedback, and I will be incorporating them into the new regulation. So, for example, one of the comments that I received from colleagues in the opposition was that the floor, the $50 floor, was too low, and that it should be at a higher amount, and we're looking at what that appropriate number would be. Also open to suggestions from this committee on what that would look like. So considerations such as that, we're hoping to have it finalized. The deadline for feedback was early this week. We will be incorporating the changes over the next 2 weeks and have it formally gazetted, so the regulations will be in place. The third element is the system that will be required for the registry to be operational. And again, work is being done, and we're very confident that will be complete in time for both the commissioner and the regulations to be in place.
We're aware that there are some colleagues that have had concerns about the foreign interference activities by means of cyberspace. And we also know that in our increasingly digital and interconnected world, malicious actors are leveraging emerging technologies to conduct surveillance and espionage, online harassment, and digital disruption against the perceived adversaries. Can you maybe outline for this committee, if you could just kind of go through the steps that the government is taking to counter cyber threats, actors involved in transnational repression and foreign interference?
There are a number of different ways in which this is addressed. So one is through CSC, and I'm not sure if she has, the director has appeared here, but they are very much in the front line of ensuring our cybersecurity is safe and secure. We also have a cybersecurity center out of Brampton that, again, do a lot of the work around cybersecurity and making sure our systems are protected. We have Bill C-8 that's now going through the House as we speak. There's clause by clause that's taking place this afternoon. So hopefully we will have a critical infrastructure being very much protected and disclosure of potential threats, so that other institutions and infrastructure could be ready. So we made a number of different. We have a number of different measures that do speak to cybersecurity. One of the challenges, I think, I would say, is as technology evolves and develops, we need, law enforcement will require powers such as lawful access. It's an area, it's a very important tool that law enforcement has been asking for. And we're hopeful, again, on that we can advance legislation, Bill C-2, which is in the House, but we can advance that or similar legislation that will ensure that law enforcement has the tools to directly target and stop cyber attacks.
Yeah, hopefully our colleagues will stop obstructing the Bill C-2 so we can actually get forward. If you could just talk about the foreign actors that are currently eyeing the Arctic and North region, a little bit about that. And I don't have a lot of time left, but in a few seconds, I'm sure other colleagues could allow you to finish that question.
Look, I would say from a departmental ministerial perspective, the Arctic and Arctic sovereignty would be my number one issue that we're facing, but also proactively addressing. All of our portfolio agencies the RCMP, who have a footprint in the Arctic, CSIS, we have increasing resources there, as well as CBSA, all have a footprint in the Arctic, particularly in Nunavut. We are, as a department, in the process of making sure that we have a presence there as well. But it is important that all Canadians, and particularly those in law enforcement, have a direct link and prioritize the Arctic as an area of vulnerability.
Thank you so much. We'll turn to Madame Normandin, 2.5 minutes, please.
Merci beaucoup. J'ai posé la
Thank
question.
you very much. I asked a question about the purchase of companies by China, and I understood the process for decision making. I'd like to hear a perspective on the process for signing agreements for the acquisition, the importation of products from China, for example, and I'm referring obviously to the 49,000 vehicles. That might be little spies on the road that could record
Thank you, Raven, for the 10. Really appreciate you.
how many passengers are in our vehicle. So the review process for such agreements, is it similar to the process for the acquisition of companies in the view of national security?
Look, issues around both privacy and security, and especially national security, I think are critical, and all Canadians are vulnerable in so many ways, right? So I have a phone here. Every one of us at this table has a phone that probably has more capabilities of gathering personal information than any other advanced device, or equal to any other advanced device. When we talk about vehicles coming in, particularly from China, the what you're referencing in terms of the agreement, I think what's critical for us, and Minister of Transport is well aware of, is to make sure that whatever vehicles are here do not have the capability to transmit information to other sources, other countries, and that is very much, I think, in line with our national security priorities.
Si vous me permettez, Monsieur le Ministre, j'aimerais entendre le
If I
processus.
may, Minister, I'd like to hear the process, because earlier Mr. Rogers mentioned that CSIS is involved when there are acquisitions of companies. Is CSIS involved, for example, when there's a signing of a trade agreement like this one?
Merci pour la question.
Thank you for the question. CSIS is involved.
Advice on issues like this. I would say the process is different than the Investment Canada Act process, which is much more formalized and regularized through a process that public safety coordinates. Our normal processes include having us provide intelligence and advice to the government around types of technologies, types of threat actors that the government takes into account in its decision making. If we're requested to provide specific advice on a particular decision, we will do so.
Thank you so much. We will now turn to Mr. Calkins for 5 minutes, please.
Thank you, Chair. Minister, you've been an MP for quite some time, as have I. You have been in Cabinet. You've been not in Cabinet. You would know that members of Parliament from time to time travel as part of international delegations. I know I have a few times. I'm assuming you have as well, as a regular member of Parliament. The only times that I've ever seen MPs being recalled from international trips is generally when there's a confidence vote in the House, and I think you and I would both agree that there was no confidence vote when the Prime Minister was in China. Is that correct? It's a very simple question.
Well, first of all, I don't believe I've gone on international travel.
Okay.
I will sponsor travel anyway, so I will put that on the record. I will say that it's up to each individual MPs to decide how long they're on a mission. There's been cases where people have come back early, have stayed later on.
If you don't want to, I'm sitting here looking at this. As a member of Parliament, I've traveled. Most members of Parliament have traveled at some point in time. You might be the only exception, but I've never seen anybody recalled from an international trip, whether it's sponsored travel or otherwise, unless they had a health concern or unless there was, and I've been recalled from Europe when we had a minority parliament when Stephen Harper was the Prime Minister. And my question to you is quite simply this. It was very obvious to everybody who was paying attention that two Liberal MPs left early It doesn't appear to be for any health reasons. It couldn't possibly be for a confidence vote because the House of Commons wasn't in session. So the question I have, Minister, is did the Beijing regime ask your government to remove those 2 MPs from that trip? Or were you so afraid of the optics of it that you, in fear of Beijing, asked your own MPs to come home early?
This is well outside of my scope of expertise, Mr. Calkins. I will say that if I recall, not all the Liberal MPs returned, including the chair. So I would say that you should pose this question to somebody who may be able to answer this question.
Well, the question begs is here because, or it's present in my mind because I'm trying to be confident that you actually have and will have the best interests of Canada at heart when it comes to implementing this foreign agent registry, because you've missed every deadline so far. Your government is now engaged in conversations about shared security environments with the regime in Beijing, and you've missed all of your deadlines for this registry. So I need to know if the regime in Beijing is actually influencing any of the decisions that our government is making under threat or under threat of retaliation or under any other type of threat or out of any fear that your government has in conducting these negotiations and putting Canadians and our democracy at risk.
Absolutely not. With respect to the timeline for the transparency registry, I will say other countries who have established these registries have taken them upwards of 2 years. So I will.
Why did it take you so long? I mean, you've missed your goals are self-imposed. We didn't impose them on you.
Well, Mr. Calkins, I'm the third minister within the timeline that we're talking about from the time the Act has gone into place. So I will take responsibility for the tenure of my leadership in this portfolio. And I will say we have been working diligently to make sure that all 3 elements that I outlined earlier
will you commit
are fulfilled.
to making sure that the registry is in place and the commissioner is in place and it's staffed and ready to go before the next general election? Because we're already at the next general election.
Are we?
Well, you've already missed. Your government committed to having this in place by the next general election.
Let me
your
say,
next opportunity is the next
I'm
next
not going to
general
make
election.
a commitment on a vote that is not in my hands, right? So vote is a free vote in Parliament where we don't know how other parties will vote. What I will say is we're making every effort, and if you want to hear from the Deputy Minister, more than willing to have her comment. We will make every effort. I will make every effort, and I will commit to working diligently to ensuring that the registry is up and running by early spring.
Are you sure that after the completion and the implementation of your foreign registry that it won't interfere in any way with Canadians voting in the next general election, whenever that happens to be?
Well, this is one tool, Mr. Calkins. This is not the only tool. There's other tools that you've heard from previously. This is definitely an important tool with respect to our democracy.
It won't affect regular, ordinary, lawful Canadians from being able to vote, correct?
Well, this is not a panacea. If I may be very candid, it is a very important tool. One of several recommendations of the Hogue inquiry, and of course others have recommended this as well, including, I believe, this committee. It is one of several tools. So this in itself will not solve all of our issues with respect to elections, but it certainly will assist us.
Thank you so much. We will turn to Mr. Lewis for 5 minutes, please.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Minister, for being here, and for everyone for your service and for keeping Canadians safe and keeping our elections secure. The actions taken by all of you have shown that foreign interference is taken seriously in Canada, and I appreciate that. Minister, continuing on what you were saying, you're saying the Foreign Influence Transparency Registry and the Commissioner are important tools, but they're not the only tools that will work to protect Canadian democracy. Can you expand on our government's other efforts, how we can work together to counter foreign influence and interference, whether it's CSIS, RCMP, CSE, you're all at the table, but no one's working in silos here. Can you explain the cooperation that happens?
Yeah, thank you. And I may just ask each of our portfolio represented here to comment on it. So maybe we'll start with Ms. Bordeaux and go to Rogers.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for that question. We work very closely with our partners, the service, other public safety partners. We investigate every complaint of foreign interference. Our primary role is to keep Canadians safe and secure. So whether it's during an election or any other period in time, we use all means that we can within the legislation, respecting the Charter of Rights and Freedoms of individuals involved, investigating all complaints of foreign interference.
Thank you. I can add to that by saying for CSIS's part, there are three things I might draw to the committee's attention. One is that we continue to collect intelligence to be able to identify when foreign interference might occur, and we can use that intelligence to inform things like the transparency registry or law enforcement actions that the RCMP might undertake. The second thing that we can do is to take action directly to prevent that foreign interference from occurring through our threat reduction measures. And the third thing is to provide information, whether classified or unclassified, to groups of Canadians to help them be resilient against foreign interference, to make sure that any attempts to influence them covertly or coercively are unsuccessful.
And I'll just add from public safety maybe two pieces that we bring to the table. One, the policy development, the policy making. So some of the legislative initiatives that we've seen in recent years, including C-70, some really important tools in there to be able to protect Canadians against foreign interference. But additionally, the work of our counter-foreign interference coordinator in helping to do outreach to vulnerable communities is a really critical part of this tool, is to ensure that we're building trust with those communities so that they understand what the threat looks like and so that we're able to better understand how we can help them, whether it's through some of the law enforcement and intelligence tools or, frankly, whether it's through just better dialogue and understanding what are the issues of concern.
Thank you. That is helpful, and it's helpful to know that you're continuing to work, whether it's an election or a non-election. Now, I would imagine that during an election cycle, the work is increased, the cooperation is increased as well. How much can you explain how that happens with as much as you can say?
I think it's very important to note that during elections, that the minister is not involved with any of the decision making. It is in fact the site TF committee, and I think you heard from them earlier this week. They're in charge. It is strictly run by civil servants, and they report directly to Canadians. So there's no reporting mechanism that goes through the regular channels in off-cycle, off-election periods. I think Canadians should be very confident that it is an independent body that truly reports to Canadians as opposed to through elected officials.
Appreciate that. I was looking forward. I wanted to continue, Ms. Geddes, our conversation about groups that might be targeted from other nations. I think you mentioned that we need to reach out to them in the languages of their choice. How is that able? How are we able to do that? Because that's and you have to build trust to do that, and you have to meet people where they are. We had a brief conversation the other day at this table, but maybe you could expand on that.
Look, I think this is critically important, and I think that that was one of the key lessons that we took from the last election, is that where we had increased transparency and we were using the traditional means of being able to outreach to media, technical outlets in that way, I think we did genuinely feel that where we did our best to try to reach communities directly in a couple of languages, frankly, there's a lot more that we could do. So we have looked to secure contracts that we're able to put in place quite quickly to be able to enable us to do translation, to be able to reach directly into those communities. Beyond just the language, though, it's also the means in which they are communicating within the communities with each other. And I think that we need to kind of continue to think about when we have information we need to share to make sure that they're well informed about the threats, that we're using the right tools at our disposal to be able to inform communities where they are. So a lot of lessons were taken on that front, and we'll continue to do some work to improve our mechanisms there.
Thank you.
We will go to very quick rounds, and for once I'm going to be militant, so we'll do 2 minutes, 2 minutes, then 1 minute. We'll start with Mr. Cooper for 2 minutes, please. Oh, Mr. Calkins, sorry.
Thank you, Chair. Minister, I asked you the same question twice just moments ago, and I'm surprised at your answer. The question again that I asked you was, after you implement the registry into full effect, will it impede any Canadians from voting? To which you could not say no. I don't know why you can't say no to that question. Why would the implementation of the registry prevent a Canadian citizen from voting?
Sorry, Mr. Calkins, I may have misunderstood your question. My understanding of your question is that this establishment of the registry will, at the end of the day, will...
It's supposed to be a tool to keep foreign interference out of our elections, not to prevent Canadians from participating in the election. Do I have that right?
It is a tool, and my point is it is one of several tools that we have. So on that, I think we could agree. It is a tool, and it's an important tool. And once established, it will...
So now that we've established that we understand each other, the question that I have for you then is, are you going to implement this the same way that you've done with your gun confiscation program? Because it seems to me, based on the premise of my previous questions, that Beijing says jump and your government says how high. You pulled those MPs off of that trip either out of a direct request from Beijing or you've done it because you're afraid of Beijing. And it seems to me that your government doesn't understand, just like in the gun confiscation program, who the good guys are and who the bad guys are. So can you reassure me that Canadians will not be affected or impacted with the implementation of your registry program and their ability to vote and participate in our democracy?
You just can't help yourself, can you, Mr. Calkins?
I'm just following up on your initiatives, Minister. When the camera's on and when people are recording, we just want to hear what you have to say.
Okay, that's 2 minutes. Madame Brière.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Minister, for being with us and all the other witnesses. Monsieur le Ministre, je vais poser ma question en français.
I'll ask my question in French. You said in your introduction that Canadians expect that their government will protect democracy. That includes, of course, our electoral process. You also mentioned the threat of foreign interference is complex. These are delicate and complex mechanisms. What would you say to Canadians to reassure them that the government is doing what it needs to do to ensure that foreign interference is a priority?
Merci, Madame Brière.
Thank you, Ms. Brière, for the question.
The outset say that we have one of the most robust electoral systems in the world, one that is truly independent and that adheres to every element of democracy and ensuring that Canadians can go to the polls without repercussions, without having any form of intimidation. It is truly a remarkable we should be very proud of our democracy and our electoral process. It is not perfect, and we've had, when we see challenges from foreign actors, from those who will try to undermine our democracy, we need to take action, and that's what our government has done, including with CITF, an independent body that during the elections do their work very effectively, the establishment of the Transparency Commissioner. It is all meant to ensure that Canadians can not just be safe, but also feel safe.
Thank you so much. We'll turn to Madame Nomada for 1 minute, please.
Monsieur le Ministre, vous avez mentionné...
Minister, you mentioned that you are paying attention so that vehicles that come to Canada can't transmit sensitive information, but this is a basic function of modern cars if we want them to work. Was the Prime Minister well briefed on this security issue before reaching the agreement with China on importing vehicles?
The Prime Minister is quite well briefed on many issues, including on issues around trade. What I think you will find, especially with vehicles, is that all vehicles coming in to Canada will have safeguards in place where our information will be protected. And that is, I think, a very important principle that we're working under. And I'm confident that that will not impede on the privacy rights of Canadians.
So much. I'd like to thank the Minister and the witnesses for being here. We'll suspend for the next panel.
Okay, we're going to switch over to the final half hour of the Finance Committee where Champagne is. And then we'll take a half-hour break until question period.
But you're right. I mean, what you're saying, basically, there's no magic bullet. And Canadians understand that. Like I was saying, what we need to do is to increase food security. And I want to applaud you, your father, and your family, because you're the ones who feed the nation. You know, people like you have. And what we provided and what we announced in Bill C-19 was support for people like you and your family to say how we can grow, how can we have more resilient supply chain. Because the reality is that, and I know it doesn't fit the narrative of the Conservative, but those are facts, is that when you import like 30% of your produce and it's going to 80% in winter, yeah, you're subject to currency fluctuation, climate change event, droughts, offer and demand, because you don't produce domestically. Same thing with respect to livestock when it comes to beef, poultry, and pork. You know, we just need to have more in the country.
Apologies, that concludes the time. Sorry. On va continuer avec Monsieur Garon.
And we will continue with Mr. Garon. Thank you very much. Quickly, could the minister get back to us in writing on what's been done and the evaluation of the performance of the CRA? That would be very beneficial to us. An observation, Minister. You know that the budget has a direct effect on people, their day-to-day lives, and sometimes there are unexpected effects of it. The libraries, public libraries in Quebec, are concerned because in Division 2, Canada Post is exempted from having had its tariff rates reevaluated by an independent agency. And the libraries are concerned because this probably will have an effect on the special rates they benefit from that they use to send books and Braille books to people with visual handicaps and so on and so forth. I don't want to debate on this, but perhaps you could follow up with us on what is possible. That would be appreciated by Quebecers. Now let me go to the tax credit on clean electricity, the Clean Electricity Investment Tax Credit. And the officials have told us about this when they came before us. There are small modular reactors covered with this, and, you know, to produce oil out of the oil sands, it takes energy to filter it all. You know, it's a heavy industrial process. And we're told that this clean electricity tax credit will be available to people who produce the most polluting fossil fuel in the world, pretty much, at least oil. So do you think this is a good idea? And I would like to know exactly how much this tax credit will cost for oil companies that will want to use nuclear energy. So on your first question from memory, and we'll check with the department to give you an answer about the libraries, but from memory you say that there are a number of measures in the budget. I think we have protected this in its implementation. You say Canada Post, yes, but I think that there are specific measures that allow. Could we follow up on that? Yes, we shall certainly follow up, but I'm just speaking from memory. And now to the oil issue. You asked me about the tax credit, clean electricity tax credit, how much in 2000? No, not the oil companies, but rather where nuclear credits are given to oil companies. Could you get back to us on that? Yes, we're certainly ready to look at it. I'm not sure we've got that level of detail to provide you with, Mr. Garon, but we'll surely try to do whatever we can to provide you with an answer. I have confidence. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Garon.
Now with Ms. Kobina for 5 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Minister, as you know, you changed the definitions of operating expenses and capital investments in the budget. The Parliamentary Budget Officer has done an analysis, in-depth analysis on this. And of course, much like many Canadians are very concerned with this new definition, the budget itself, your budget actually shows how the provinces don't do it, Singapore doesn't do it, the UK and others. The PBO has called for an independent expert body to police the numbers because of the concerns around this new definition. Have you considered appointing the independent expert body?
Well, we always listen to the comment of the Parliamentary Budget Officer, but I would say you're right, our capital budgeting process has attracted a lot of attention. I can tell you there's many jurisdictions who are looking at Canadian definition, and I would say like it. And therefore, I would look more at other international body to comment on what Canada is doing And by the way, it doesn't change. It's in addition. The deficit is the deficit. With whatever column you put it, it doesn't change the calculation.
Can you just focus on the question itself? Will you be appointing an independent expert body?
It's not part of our plan now, I can tell you, because what we're doing is in addition to what was presented. It follows, it doesn't change in any way the public account of Canada. Like I said, it's in addition. If someone doesn't like the presentation, they can just look at the bottom line and they'll see the deficit is the deficit.
When you actually, in fact, use the definition outlined by public accounts, there is a misrepresentation of $94 billion. So it is a big number, which is why the PBO requested an independent body to police the numbers. So would you consider that to ensure that there is transparency in fiscal integrity in the numbers?
Well, there's certainly integrity because it doesn't change the number. What you're talking is about the presentation. And I would say it's in addition to what existed, so people can still see from year to year the evolution of the numbers. What we tried is more transparent, and I would say the IMF even commented and complimented Canada for the work we've been doing, Minister, comparing that to other G7.
I mean, I don't want to focus on the IMF, but the IMF itself actually also said that the definition of capital and spending remains broad, and that's a quote. But just to get back to the definition, tax credits, subsidies, corporate welfare would be consider a capital investment. Obviously, that's not the case. One of the examples is security that the country's going to be spending on for FIFA would be a capital investment. There will be no capital formation, so you can understand the concern around that. Why refusing the independent expert body?
Like I say, it's a way to present the numbers, but it's in addition to what's already existing, and it doesn't change in any form the public accounts of Canada. It's an addition. It's a way of presenting it. Like I said, the deficit number is the deficit number.
So the answer is no, you won't be appointing that?
That's not part of our current plans.
Okay. So I asked some of my constituents if they had some questions. They obviously don't have access to you. So sure. If I may, I will ask some of their questions.
Yes.
So I have Lorna. She has a question for you. And she says, could you kindly ask the finance minister to look at my grandchildren's and my children in the eyes and explain why he's racking up debt in Canada and how much debt they will inherit?
Yes, and it's thank you. I want to thank her, and if I have the chance to go in your writing, I'd like to go knock on her door and provide her the answer in person. I would say she should see that budget as an investment in their children, because by growing the economy...
Was how much debt?
No, that's what I was saying, is that by growing the economy, our children will be better off.
But the economy is under a recession watch because 2 out of the 3 last quarters GDP has been contracting. But how much debt?
Well, that's what I was trying to explain, is that this is a moment where you need to invest to grow the economy. It's not a time to look down.
Just the number.
Well, but I have to explain the framework. So I'm saying we invest so that we can have...
I don't have a lot of time. So Lori says, I am one of the million of working poor that are just above the line to receive the benefits. When is there going to be some kind of benefit coming my way?
Well, I would say C-19 is probably the answer, the Canadian Grocery and Essential Benefits.
She's above the limit.
Well, I would say she would have benefited from the tax cut. That's what I would respond to her, and I hope I can go knock on her door with you.
Thank you very much, Minister. Thank you, Ms. Turbina. We will continue now with Mr. Sawatsky for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So coming to the topic of, I mean, we've been talking about affordability, but affordability plays into competition among sectors, but also to ensure that there's competition, we also need to help small and medium-sized businesses to kind of encourage their growth and for people to have different options when it comes to buying things. Now, of course, I mean, in my own riding of New Westminster, Burnaby-Bullardville, I've got lots of SMEs. They're the backbone of Canada's economy, really, a major source of productivity and growth. We of course saw major disruptions during the COVID-19 pandemic, and that has long-lasting effects on SMEs. You think about shutting down for over a year and just the effects that has on your employees and being able to kind of stay afloat. And so now is an especially important time to make sure that we're supporting these SMEs. So how will measures in the Budget Implementation Act reduce barriers and create better conditions for SMEs to grow, innovate, and compete in today's economy?
Well, that's a very good question, and thank you again for your focus on small and medium-sized businesses, because every member of Parliament obviously has SMEs in their riding, and we know they're the backbone of the Canadian economy. And let's be honest, it's been tough. It's been tough. If you're a small and medium-sized businesses coming out of COVID, now the whole tariff situation, the change in supply chain, that's why I'm saying the speed, scope, and scale of change is quite unprecedented, and it affects particularly small and medium-sized businesses across the country. So I would point out to the reform we did on the SHRED tax credit to make it more predictable. What we had heard from small and medium-sized businesses is that they said, Minister, this was too cumbersome. The audit would take years. There was no predictability in how much you would receive. And therefore, that's why we went to the private sector and they say, how can we reform that? If you had a white sheet of paper, what would you do? And they came back and we implemented the recommendation they made. So now you can pre-apply for the credit. If you stay within the parameter, you have the predictability you need. So no need for long audit and waiting years to know how much you're going to receive. This has been applauded. This is one of them. The other one I would say is the productivity super deduction, because that is really giving a hand for small and medium-sized businesses who may say, in the context of this uncertainty and tariffs, if you want to invest in plant equipment, machinery, technology, robots, automation, AI, this is the kind of boost you need, because that goes to your cash flow. And that's the kind of need. And the other thing I would say, if I have time, Madam Chair, is the Buy Canadian policy. What businesses want is not a grant. It's not a loan. They want a customer. So to the extent that we at the federal level, provincial, municipal, corporate Canada, I've been talking to CEO and say we all need to do that, because that's the best way. What they want is a customer. And sometimes to be the first customer, so they can go abroad and they say, well, my own government believes in my product, my services. And that's why, for me, this is a game changer. In addition to removing the interprovincial barrier, as we've seen recently, that could give a boost of north of $200 billion. Because if you're in PEI, you want to sell in Alberta or in Quebec, and you want to sell in New Brunswick, removing these barriers is essential to our economic growth. So those are the kind of things that we've been focusing on to make sure that SMEs in the country can succeed.
Thank you, Minister. Those are certainly some very concrete actions. I mean, of course, you mentioned just having that the timeline of making sure that the shredded credits can come in as quickly as possible. Of course, when you've got employees to pay, sometimes an extra week there can really make the difference, I'm sure. So bringing the conversation over to trade diversification. Of course, an essential thing for protecting Canadian jobs, particularly when we're looking at rising protectionism around the world. So this budget includes new export financing tools, trade corridor investments, market expansion supports to help Canadian businesses access the Indo-Pacific, European, and other emerging markets. So could you tell us how this legislation is going to help Canadian exporters take advantage of new markets and strengthen Canada's trade diversification strategy?
In 10 seconds.
The national trade corridors will be helping to have more fluidity to bring our products to market.
Great. Thank you very much, Mr. Sawatsky. Mr. Kelly, for 5 minutes, please.
Minister, you've had a lot of time, I think, to prepare for this meeting. There's a question that I have asked you repeatedly at Committee of the Whole, at your budget appearance here. It's a question that you never answer. I'm hoping that you've been well briefed, maybe consulted your officials, and that today is the day that you will answer the question and tell Canadians in what year you will balance the budget.
It's like you don't like my answers. It's not that it's the question that's wrong. You just don't like the answer. That's why I say I think Canadians at home watching understand we are in unprecedented time. And as the International Monetary Fund said, you need to use that fiscal capacity to build in this country, protect our nation, and empower Canadians.
So that wasn't an answer to my question. The answer to my question would necessitate a date or a year. So the question is, in what year will you balance the budget?
Like I said, I'm afraid you just don't like the answer, so you might want to change the question.
No, you're a minister. You're here to answer questions. I've asked a question and you're not answering it. You must have an answer. Your department is full of officials that go through all kinds of modeling and projecting. Your budget contains projections, but it doesn't go far enough out to maybe get to the year where the budget will be balanced. So what year do your department officials tell you the budget will be balanced?
Well, let me put that in context, and you might not like the answer anyway. But we live in probably the most uncertain time in the world. And that's why when you see in G7 countries, the reality now is that those who have the fiscal capacity are building their country, protecting their sovereignty, empowering their people. That's the best way for Canadians to grow our economy.
Okay, so since you aren't answering it, you're giving a response that isn't an answer. Am I to infer from that there is no possibility under your government of ever balancing the budget?
That's correct.
Like I said, I refer to you. You can look at the fiscal framework. It's in the budget. We're living in very uncertain time, and I'm a responsible finance minister.
Okay.
And when you're responsible, you base your answer on facts. You base your answer on the reality of the moment.
Would a responsible finance minister answer a basic financial question?
Like I said, you've been asking the same questions, and you still don't like the answer.
No, you have never answered my question.
Well, it's that you don't like. Change the question, and you may like the answer.
No. You know, your parliamentary immunity allows you to do this. A regular witness this would actually be contempt of Parliament.
Well, that's your opinion.
No, it's a fact.
Well, I'm a lawyer, so that's your opinion.
Answer questions.
Well, like I said, I'm providing an answer. You just don't like it. But Canadians understand. You can play that game all along, but that's okay with me. I'm a lawyer. That's fine. Ask the question again.
Tell us you're a lawyer one more time.
I'll say to you again, we live in the most uncertain time, and this is a time where you need to be fiscally prudent. Use your fiscal capacity to invest in Canada.
On fiscal prudence, you have made commitments in the past about what the deficit would be. You had promised in the election, I believe that you promised it wouldn't exceed its present level. It has doubled. Your budget deficit that you tabled was double the last budget's deficit. Will next year be lower or higher than this year? Will you meet your projection? Can you give us anything?
Have you seen what happened in the last few months?
Yes, but I've been here for 10 years where every single finance, including all of your predecessors, have come here to this committee and made commitments that they never fulfill. So it goes to credibility, and Canadians are watching, and they want to have confidence in their officials. But by refusing to answer questions and by refusing to adhere to fiscal anchors and fiscal guardrails that you set for yourself and perpetually change, that erodes confidence in officials, because it means that your Canadians don't know whether they can trust your words.
I would say
can you give Canadians a plain answer about whether or not there is any plan to ever balance the budget?
That's your personal opinion. I'd use humility, because if you look at the rating agencies and others and economists in the country, they understand where we're going. And even former Prime Minister Harper, which you should listen to, in uncertain time, used the fiscal capacity at the time of crisis to protect Canada. That's what I'm doing.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly. We will continue with Mr. McDonald for 5 minutes now.
Thanks again. Minister, Atlantic Canada is having some electricity challenges, and it's been a result of, again, aging infrastructure, transmission lines that will not carry enough transmission for all the maritime provinces. The Prime Minister has been clear in Budget 2025 that he's interested in creating clean electrical corridor across the country. doubling the supply of electricity that'll be available. So I just wondered if you could comment on that, speak to how that'll take into place. I know the clean electricity tax credit is going to incentivize the private sector to invest. We see Wind West as one of the named projects. And in Atlantic Canada, it'll be a combination of different proponents generating electricity to meet the need of the day.
Yeah, I mean, there's great projects in energy generation and transmission in Atlantic Canada. I've been speaking to a number of premiers. And they understand we just need to go on with these projects because they're going to be game changers, I would say, for the whole region. There's a lot of opportunities in Atlantic Canada. You mentioned a few of them. I know there's other projects being considered because it is very clear that energy is a proxy to growth in many ways. You know, if you want to attract investment, if you want to grow the economy, energy generation is fundamental in order to achieve that. And therefore, I think what you've been doing and what the premiers have been doing and what we put in the budget. I mean, if you look at the clean tax credit, I mean, it's quite, I mean, in the G7, I would say Canada is by far the one on top of the list when it comes to clean electricity tax credit and clean energy generation tax credit. And this is just another proof point that we understand where the ball is going. And you want to be in this electric stack, you know, you want to produce the electron in order to capitalize on the monetization of what they call the electricity stack in the digital economy of the future. You want to be able to attract the investments that will monetize, for example, what you see in AI, what you see in quantum. So it is a very smart way in Atlantic Canada to generate growth for future generations.
One of the other factors that has been identified is our trade diversification goals and reducing our reliance on our U.S. partner. So I talk a lot to the agricultural producers across the country, west, east, central. And what they tell me is that the port infrastructures have to be expanded. I know Budget 2025 mentions port infrastructure. In Atlantic Canada, we got Halifax and St. John. We met some of the caucus the other morning with these CEOs. They have a path forward. What's the role of government to help this port expansion?
Well, port expansion is key. You know, I can think we have projects like we have some in Atlantic Canada. We have some in Quebec. Contrecoeur, as you know, will expand 60% of its capacity. I mean, we just need to do that. We've been talking to some of the largest port operator, I would say, marine operator as well. And they really like Canada. Honestly, in this world, Canada really stands out. You know, they're looking at inland port. They're looking at expansion of port. I can think of Prince Rupert. I mean, we can think also in the port of Vancouver, in Halifax. There's other opportunities, as you know, in Newfoundland and Labrador. I was just with the Premier. It's just that, you know, Canada is really the place where people are looking to invest and deploy capital. That's really the signal we got also from sovereign wealth fund around the world who say they're willing to partner with proponents in the country. That's why, you know, I believe in Canada. I'm confident. You know, there's a bit of headwind, but we have everything to succeed as a nation because our people are resilient. Our economy is more resilient than we expected. And with the investments that we've put in Budget 2025, we have a roadmap to 2023 to succeed as a nation.
30 seconds left.
Just a quick comment on defense. As we roll out defense investments, obviously all of us that are MPs are trying to identify opportunities in our own particular areas and ridings. I've identified an opportunity. I've identified that we could do it in a dual purpose way. It could be infrastructure invested that would help with trade diversification, but also help the defense file. Is that what you're running into across the country that we're getting?
Thank you, Mr. McDonald. We're going to have to end it there. On va continuer pour 2 minutes et demie avec Monsieur.
And now 2.5 minutes to Mr. Garon. Thank you, Madam Chair. You have abolished the tax on digital services to make negotiations easier with Donald Trump. Did he applaud you for that? Didn't he make it easier for you or the Prime Minister? No, he hasn't sent me any congratulations. And doing so, how much of revenue income have you deprived yourselves of? Just a figure. I mean, quantitative. I'd just like to know how much we're losing. Well, look, we need the context, just so I think people understand the context on this one. I just want to know a figure in Canadian dollars. How much have we lost in local currency? I have got that. But look, let me set the portrait first, Like, this is what I find annoying. You run through my time. My question is quite simple. I've got another question after this. Just tell me how much we've deprived ourselves. It's Thursday. Just please give me what I'm asking for. I will. I'll give you a figure. I'll get back to you on it. Oh, I'm patient. I'm patient. Just give me a second. Unless the Deputy Minister has the figure at his fingertips, I can give it to you, but otherwise I'll get back to you with it. But look, I'm always here to help you, Honourable Minister. You know me. Yeah, I know. You're an economist. Very helpful. I'm like Indiana Jones. I'm always ready to help. $7.2 billion. That's what you've given up. And we understand the context. I just didn't want to fight on that because we, know the context and we agree on that. But, there is a media crisis. In the election campaign, you offered $150 million to Radio-Canada, CBC. We don't disagree with that. But, there's a crisis in the media, which is really part of the democracy crisis. I want to know why. There's nothing for them in the budget. Why aren't we more generous? Why aren't there more tax credits for newsrooms, traditional media sources, and so forth? And do you have anything in mind in future budgets to continue to support our democracy? Yes, you're quite right. There are measures. We do have things in mind. For CBC Radio-Canada, for example, there are additional amounts that have been voted for them, and there are a number of initiatives. People have come to us with very good ideas, truly, that we are now taking under consideration. Thank you, Mr. Garon, and Minister, we have to stop there.
It's left for this committee, so given that we have two more speakers, I'm just going to split the time in half, two and a half. So for that, Mr. Halan, please proceed.
Minister, in 2023, you said you would stabilize grocery prices. Ever since that date where you promised that to Canadians, food inflation has more than doubled. In fact, Canada now has the highest food inflation in the entire G7. Food bank usage has more than doubled. We're seeing 2.2 million Canadians having to use one each month, including 700,000 children at least. Knowing all this, knowing the pain and suffering that your government has caused Canadians, why wasn't there a single thing in the BIA to lower grocery prices?
Well, you would have seen C-19. I just appeared this week on that, and I think your party supported
came after the budget, and if it was that important to you, why was it not in the budget?
Well, like I said, this is something you supported, so I think that you recognize that because this was important for Canadians.
Please tell me, C-19 is almost passed now, and we helped it. Yes, it's a rebate. Can you tell us how much grocery prices will go down after it's implemented?
You know very well how complex that situation is, and Canadians understand it. There's no politics to be. There's no gain politically for you to go in that direction. Canadians understand it's complex, and we're offering support.
Are frustrated because your government's policies have raised grocery prices. That's why we have the highest food inflation in the G7. Now, your government also committed to 500,000 homes a year. Your own housing agency says you're not even meeting half of that target. Can you tell us in what year you'll reach 500,000 homes?
Honestly, I don't think there's any political points for you to score talking about grocery and shelter. This is something we should all come together.
To you guys, because
that's why you said public, your leader said public that you would support, and you should stand by that.
C-19 would have been in the budget, but it wasn't because it became a political issue for you guys. The 2.2 million Canadians in food banks wasn't enough for you. It wasn't enough that anyone that goes to, sometimes it makes me think, are you guys all like the Prime Minister? None of you do your own grocery shopping? Do you not see the prices at the grocery store? Canadians are suffering under you guys. 2.2 million Canadians a month are going to food bank. You've doubled food bank usage.
And that's why I think you should adhere to the words of your leader. I'm just quoting the letter from your leader of January 24.
Your leader said to judge him by the cost of grocery at the grocery store.
That's not what he said in the January 24 letter. I have it in front of me. He said, if you have other ideas that make food affordable, we will fast-track them.
So
I think you should
what have
stand
you
by
done
what your
to
leader
make
said.
food more affordable?
Well, that's why...
Name one thing. Name one.
I could not hear your question.
Thank you, Mr. Halan. We will conclude now with 2.5 minutes from Mr. Leitao.
Okay, we don't need to listen to liberal bootlicking for the last 2 minutes. That was pretty much where I wanted to get with that. So yeah, we've got an hour and a half break till question period, and I know there's a lot of committees on in the afternoon, guys, and I really do want to cover some of them. The only problem is I can't, unfortunately. I do have a flight really early in the morning, so I have to leave at like 4 a.m. So I have to get some sleep tonight before I fly out. So I really apologize for that. YouTube glitching hard today. It's been like this all week, to be honest. The chat's been freezing. The streams have been acting up kind of slow. I did some checking last night to see if it was a YouTube thing or if it was like a me thing, but it's not. It's definitely like I'm quite confident it's a YouTube thing. They've tried to add some new features on for creators and for streaming. So I don't know. I think they're just working on whatever bug they created, to be honest. But I haven't got a confirmation on that. No worries, Clips. You have live too. You do look up for us yet. Sorry, guys. I know there are some really good committees on this afternoon. Like the ethics committee is probably a really good one to watch. The health committee would probably be really good as well. I mean, if you guys want to watch it on Parle View, you're more than welcome to. Why are you talking over them? Because it's liberals. It's a liberal round for the last 2 minutes. We don't need to listen to this. I'm gonna call the stream here, and then we're gonna take an hour and a half break until question period. I think I did put the link in chat already, but I'll put the link in chat one more time before we go. And yeah, I'll see you guys for question period. Unfortunately, Carney is not. Well, unfortunately or fortunately, Carney's not going to be there. He's got a meeting with Atlantic premiers. So no Carney for question period. And Jolie is speaking right now. We can switch over to Jolie if she's speaking. I thought that was in camera. $12 till 2. I don't see her in. Might be in camera. Yeah, I think it was the first hour for that, and it was in camera because I don't see her there now. She's not there anymore. Am I incorrect on that? I think might be in camera. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think she's there anymore. She's only supposed to be there for the first hour anyway. So. I'm a pass on QP today. I'm just exhausted. Oh, that sucks, Raven. Hopefully you feel better. But okay, that's it. I'll call it here, guys, and I'll see you guys shortly. Just a little over an hour. Bye, guys. See you soon. Oh, wait. Before I go. I did say thanks when it was happening, but thanks, Raven, for the 10 gifted memberships. Really appreciate that. Thank you, Wicked, for the 2 super chats. Wee Cookie with the super chat. Angel with the super chat, really appreciate you, and Orc Cloud being a member for 4 months. Thanks, guys. Lots of extra help today. Anyway, there we go. Okay, see you guys.